Bright ancient lands where your ancestors stood tall. Beloved Palestine, we heed your call. Against the chains and walls, our spirits never break. For the freedom of our homeland, every step we take. Palestine, our hearts beat strong. For your freedom we sing this song. Against oppression through betrayals now.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of iStory. Today, we're diving into the life of one of the greatest figures in history, the champion of chivalry and the epitome of nobility, Saladin. So let's start from the very beginning, my dear viewer. Imagine the year 1137 or 1138, in a fortress called Tikrit in Iraq, where a baby named Yusuf ibn Ayyub was born, who would later be known as Saladin. Little Yusuf was born into a noble Kurdish family, and his father, Najm ad-Din Ayyub, was a military commander serving under Imad ad-Din Zengi. So, you see, this family was right in the middle of all the action, and childhood for Yusuf was anything but ordinary. Growing up in such an environment filled with challenges and conflicts, Yusuf's family moved to Mosul and then to Damascus, where Yusuf received his education. He studied the Quran, Hadith, Islamic jurisprudence, and, of course, military training. This wasn't just any ordinary education. It was like a kid today learning both advanced science and mastering video games at the same time. Nur ad-Din Zengi, who was the ruler of Syria, saw Yusuf's military talent. He noticed a future leader in him, someone who could change the course of history. And indeed, Saladin began his military career under Nur ad-Din's leadership. He quickly proved his worth in battles and showed his brilliance, climbing the military ranks rapidly. In 1169, things got really heated. Nur ad-Din sent an army to Egypt under the command of Asad ad-Din Shirkuh, Saladin's uncle. After Shirkuh's death, Saladin took over the command. My dear viewer, can you imagine this young man who was once studying in Damascus now becoming the vizier of Egypt? And soon after, he became the Sultan, and he did something incredible. He ended the Fatimid Caliphate in 1171 and brought Egypt back under the Sunni Abbasid Caliphate. This was like turning a chicken into a phoenix. Between 1174 and 1186, Saladin worked tirelessly to unite the fragmented Muslim states under his banner. This was his main goal, uniting everyone under one flag. He annexed Damascus, Aleppo, Mosul, and everything in between. The man had his eyes on the prize and a clear vision, and he wasn't kidding around. Now let's move to 1187, when things got scorching hot. Not just because of the sun, but because of the wars. Saladin decided that this was the right time for a decisive blow against the Crusaders. He started preparing his army and meticulously planning. And indeed, in the summer of 1187, he lured the Crusaders towards Tiberias, and there the siege began. The siege and exhaustion, Saladin besieged the Crusader forces on the hills of Hattin. The weather was blazing hot, water was scarce, and thirst was their worst enemy. On July 4th, 1187, the Crusader army was exhausted, and Saladin delivered a crushing blow. My dear viewer, no one could stand in his way. The result? The capture of King Guy of Lusignan and many other Crusader leaders. After the battle, Saladin's actions were the epitome of generosity and chivalry. He ordered the prisoners to be brought to his tent. Among them was King Guy of Lusignan, who was extremely thirsty. Saladin offered him a cup of water, and the king drank it. But when the king offered the cup to his friend Renaud de Chatillon, Saladin stopped him and said, "No, not this man." Renaud was a war criminal who had committed many atrocities. Saladin personally executed him, and the generosity didn't stop there. Saladin ordered the release of the ordinary soldiers after they paid a small ransom. For those who couldn't afford it, Saladin let them go in peace, providing them with water and food to ensure their safe journey home. After the victory at Hattin, Saladin marched towards Jerusalem. On October 2nd, 1187, he recaptured the city after a 2-week siege. My dear viewer, imagine, after 88 years of Crusader occupation, Jerusalem was back in Muslim hands. And what happened next was astounding. Saladin ordered the protection of civilians and allowed Christians and Jews to practice their faith freely. No one was harmed, and the churches and synagogues were left intact. This act of tolerance earned him immense respect from both his friends and foes. The Battle of Arsuf and relationship with Richard the Lionheart. In 1191, let's talk about the famous battle with Richard the Lionheart. Although Richard won the battle, Saladin showed rare bravery and humanity. When Richard's horse fell, Saladin sent him a new one. My dear viewer, this wasn't just a war. It was a lesson in chivalry. When Richard fell ill during the Third Crusade, Saladin sent his personal physician and fresh fruits to him. This act of humanity left a lasting impression on Richard. One of Saladin's most famous quotes is, "How can I sleep while Jerusalem is in captivity?" This man saw himself as responsible for the well-being of the entire Muslim world. In his final years, Saladin continued to strive for the unity of the Muslim world and to resist the recurring Crusader invasions. He passed away on March 4th, 1193, in Damascus and was buried in the Umayyad Mosque. Saladin left behind a legacy of bravery, generosity, and wisdom. His life was filled with noble deeds and a strong sense of justice, making him a model of leadership and ethics. Saladin's legacy is one of courage, humanity, and chivalry. He wasn't just a military genius, but also a compassionate leader. His ability to combine strength with kindness has left an indelible mark on history. He remains a source of inspiration, a figure whose life teaches us the true meaning of noble leadership. So, my dear viewer, this was the story of Saladin, the hero who changed the course of history. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on iStory. Oh yeah. Peace out.